everyone. I am Claudiu Murgan, the host of the Spiritual Inspire podcast. Welcome back to a new episode. Please like the interview, leave a comment, and visit spiritualinspire.ca for more episodes. My guest today is coming from Australia, and she is Sharon Bolt. Sharon, thank you for joining me, and welcome to Spiritual Inspired.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
You are a curandera, a shamanic magician, ceremonialist, and educator, and you are so versatile. And we'll talk about each of these specialties of yours. But I would like to start by asking you, how did the spiritual calling happen to you?
Oh, how? Okay, you know how it happened? I was in a bookstore and Louise's Hay book, You Can Heal Your Life, literally fell on my head when I was 20 years old. And I wasn't even looking at self-help books, and I thought, ouch. And it actually started with that amazing book that has helped so many people.
Very interesting. And I think you are not the only one. A lot of my previous guests told me similar stories that they were nowhere in their spiritual life and in life in general. And they walk into a bookstore or a used bookstore or regular bookstore, and something happened to them. They're drawn to a specific book or a tarot card deck or something which put them on this amazing path of self-development.
Absolutely. And I also have a background in religion, which a lot of people find surprising. So I come from a very religious household. We were Catholic. Then we became Seventh-day Adventist. And then out of my own accord, when I was 8 years old or 7 years old, I became a Jehovah's Witness.
Wow.
And I literally saw them in the street and said to my parents, I'm going with them. Goodbye. And so I became a Jehovah's Witness for a long time. And so it took me about 10 years after that to deprogram from religion and fear before fully allowing spirituality to come in.
Because I know it's quite hard to get out of this type of cult or religious structure. So was that hard for you as well?
Yes, it was really hard because, you know, the programming is intense and there's this huge fear of the devil and what the devil will do to you, and everything is of the devil. For example, I was doing Qigong classes and they told me that when we feel our own energy, it was like demons coming into my body. And so I became paranoid, and it was quite a big process. So it's very surprising to me that we now have a trend where spirit workers are going back to religion. Yes. And there's many, right? There's a huge trend at the moment. And I look at this and I'm like, what's going on here? And I actually was thinking about this morning. It's because we all think it's outside of ourselves.
Yes, and it's unusual for spiritual people or light workers to do that, to go back to a dogmatic type of mindset, especially with what's going on in the Catholic Church and all the unusual agreements and laws and regulations that the church is putting out these days. So you expect this type of men and women will just move away from this structure or stay on their own path and not go back.
Absolutely. And I feel that a lot of the structures are actually crumbling, but because society is so unstable, people are trying to cling on to something that feels familiar, right? Yes. We know that when we get to the age of Aquarius, like the age of the guru is over, yet I'm still surprised to meet so many people saying, I'm going to India to find enlightenment. Like, you don't need to go anywhere to find enlightenment. I thought that program was well and truly done, but it's not. And it's because these programs feel familiar to us.
Yes. And to be honest with you, I want to visit India, but not to necessarily find the guru, but to to bath myself into the spirituality of the land, to meet the people, to visit the sacred places, to um, have a taste of who they really are. And that's, I think, is different than going and finding another guru, as you said.
It's very different. I went to Korea for a guru, right? I've been to many places looking for gurus and looking for training. And it's very different now when I go to places that are rich in spirituality, like Bali. You're not going to find or take anything. You're going to just appreciate another aspect of spirituality and to be inspired. And like you said, connect to the land.
Yes, indeed. And I want to go back to what you mentioned. I mean, the way you were brought up. You were born in Nicaragua, if I'm not mistaken. How deep and developed are the shamanic traditions in Nicaragua?
They're not, it's, they tend to, because there's been so much religion, right? Most of the local traditions are unfortunately mixed with a lot of Catholic traditions. That's been inevitable because of colonization, right? And also, Nicaragua is a poverty-torn country, and it is very, very poor. And so there are local traditions, but they are not united. They're hidden. And unfortunately, the overall people don't value their indigenous traditions. So I didn't actually train in my homeland. I trained in different parts of the world.
Yes, and I think it's the same for the entire Central America, like Panama and Costa Rica. They do have shamans, but it's not common practice and visible or in your face. Is very subtle, and you have to know someone who knows someone who will take you to a ceremony. And the only, in fact, there are two publicly known places in Costa Rica. Yeah, one is
Yeah.
Soltara, the other one is Rhythmia, and they are
Oh,
well known and visited by public figures and celebrities. But Panama is not at that level. It's even lower on the scale of practicing indigenous customs.
yes. I was recently in Guatemala. My grandmother um, comes from Guatemala. Anyway, when I was there, I actually, to have a local ceremony with an indigenous Mayan man, it had to be through a family member because they don't normally see the general public. So I was very blessed to experience that when I was there.
Yes, very interesting. And I had a previous guest from Belize. She lives in the USA, but the ancestors pulled at her sleeve, and she said they told her, "You have to go back to Belize, and we have to give you knowledge." And in the end, her initiation took place in Guatemala, where her ancestors moved from Belize. And she described her story and the trip and how she met her relatives. So yes, Guatemala is another blessed place in terms of spirituality and energies and pyramids.
Absolutely. And thank you for mentioning that. I am a firm believer that it is our ancestors that train us. It is our
Yes.
ancestors that are carrying the gifts. We're also carrying their shadows. But the biggest healing comes from ancestral healing. And I was like everyone else at the beginning. I was looking for salvation outside of myself. So I dabbled in many other traditions until one day my ancestors told me to stop and to focus on my own lineages within and share that wisdom instead.
Yes, and because I want to go back to that idea that a lot of light workers go or look back to the religion. And I would like to know your opinion because a lot of them talk about Yeshua, or Jesus Christ, and that to them, that entity somehow is detached from the religion and they embrace that energy fully and they call it anytime they need help. How do you see this aspect of the spirituality?
I'll tell you exactly how I see it because it's happened so many times. When people first come into spirituality, they think they can do it without training and they dabble. And the biggest problem people have is that they cannot discern energies. They cannot discern, they think the spirit world is all good. So they can't discern between negative spirits and benevolent spirits. And as you know, in order to be able to engage with positive spirits, we have to be an energetic match, which means we have to do a lot of inner work. We have to do a lot of sacrifices and a lot of initiations. So when you throw yourself into this work and you refuse to do that, you're going to attract quite negative beings. And you're also going to be working at spirituality at a mental level. So what's happened to a lot of these people, this is the most common phone call I get. And I get this phone call every couple of weeks. Sharon, I'm in trouble. This is actually real. I'm like, yes, it's real. All of a sudden, I'm now having demonic attacks. I can't sleep at night. And the only thing that saved me was in the middle of the night calling out for Yeshua. He came, he cleared the demonic entities. I am now saved. I'm becoming a Christian. Yes, there is a being such as Yeshua who can clear demonic entities. But what they do is then they blame the occult or the New Age or spirituality instead of taking responsibility for being sloppy spirit workers. And they don't realize that they just swapped one contract with many different beings with another contract with another being who's more powerful than those. So I keep saying that spirituality is like an MLM, right? The energy is always going up and up, and you got to be in the right pyramid, which is the pyramid leading to source, because there's so many other pyramids leading to shadow beings and dark beings that it's not what we're supposed to be doing. So that's the most common one of why people go back to religion. They get a big fright. And I want to normalize frights in this path. I want to normalize eventually on the path, you may see a dark being. You may even get attacked by a dark being. But I really want people to feel empowered and to know your own soul has more power than any of these beings. So if you stand in your power and through the fear and through anger, right? Righteous anger, you can command anything out of your energy field.
Yes. And just to kind of summarize what you said, doesn't matter if you go to the church every Sunday, you can still be psychically attacked. You can still have, let's say, demons or negative energies attached to you, and no one else will know how to clear that but yourself, or go to the right individual who knows to or teach you how to do it, or she will do it for you, and for the next time she will teach you how to do it yourself.
Absolutely. There's lots of entities everywhere, even at churches, right? Even in religion. They're just part of this reality. We live in a polarity universe. There's benevolence and there's malevolence. And part of our journey is being comfortable with that, knowing who we are, and doing the inner work so that we match higher vibrational beings more and more every day.
Yes. And someone told me that the churches and the cathedrals in Europe are so haunted. There are so many, let's say, spirits hanging in there that when you walk through those doors, if you don't know how to protect yourself, they will come and not shred you to pieces physically, but energetically, because of such or so many events, tragic events that happen within those walls.
Absolutely. I won't go into churches unless I want to do a clearing on myself afterwards. It is just too much. Churches are like hospitals. They are full of negative energies and like nightclubs and things like that. So a church is not a safe place. And what happens is, let's go back to the religion bit as well. The reason why people leave the New Age for religion is because they're in a constant chaos and they don't feel, they haven't lost their anxiety, or they haven't gotten rid of whatever they wanted to get rid of. But it's not because of spirituality. It's because they refuse to do that authentic inner work. Right? So
Yes.
again, I get a lot of phone calls all the time saying, Sharon, I've been doing the inner work. And I always say, well, what have you been doing? And like, well, I pick an oracle card every morning and I do my affirmations. And I said, that's all lovely, right? Those are lovely things to do, but that's not the inner work.
Yes, indeed. Uh, I would like to go back to what you said about Korea. How did you end up with the Taoist monks? And you spent, I think, 2 years there. And how did that transform you?
Hi. Well, I was working in corporate, I was working in advertising. And one day I actually got promoted. And I've been working for this promotion for a very long time. And I felt nothing. Like, why do I feel nothing? Should I be happy that this is happening? So immediately I started looking at different aspects of spirituality. And in London, there was a center, a Korean monk center. And I started going every day and training in Qigong. And that gave my life meaning at the time. And I was looking for meaning, right? I was looking to heal what happened with religion. I was looking to connect to myself and to my energy. So next thing you know, I spent 2 years full time there, 5 years part time, and part of the journey was going to Korea to visit the temples, etc. And so, however, looking back now, I thought I was looking for spirituality. I was actually looking for family,
Indeed.
right? Because we all go to things because of a wound. And until we heal our wounds, we're going to keep going to the next thing that we think is going to heal that wound. Right? And of course, those things don't heal the wound. They will keep showing you what the wound is until you finally acknowledge that you're a wounded healer and start the journey towards healing those wounds.
Yes. So you're looking for a much better family than you had before.
Yes.
Someone who will understand you and will help you heal. Indeed.
That's right. And that's what everyone is looking for when they're saying, I want to find my tribe. That's what everyone's looking for in festivals. That's what everyone looking for in community. Like, I just want to feel, because we miss tribal structures. They're in our DNA and we miss them so much. I think most people would love nothing more than to be part of a village where everyone is connected and everyone feels that they belong and they're contributing, because that's deep in our psyche and it's something we all want so badly. We go looking for it, right? At the cacao ceremony, at the Taoist centers, in India, not realizing that if we actually take the time to heal that within, when we go to all of these places, we're not going with a needy energy. We're going now with an energy of sharing our light and sharing our gifts. So it's a completely different energetic way in which we're showing up.
Yes, and this tribal desire and earning, I mean, the indigenous people lived in tents and smaller communities. They knew each other. The children were raised by the tribe, not by necessarily one family. And I can tell you that when I was young, like 6, 7, 8 years old, and I was going to my father's parents, my grandparents on my father's side, they live in a village, and my father knew everyone and everyone knew everyone. It was a different type of feeling, and they were talking to each other. They were borrowing tools, and everyone had their own chickens and plantation, like fruit tree plantation and all kinds of things. And even in a city, I remember on my grandparents, on my mother's side, talking over the fence, and they said, can you lend me half a kilo of flour or sugar? Because I don't want to go to the store right now. You cannot do something like this now in today's society. You barely know your neighbors. So if you go to ask them for something, they'll look at you like you have three heads.
And we are really keen on, my partner and I, knowing our neighbors. So we have actually introduced ourselves to all the neighbors. And you can imagine when you knock on the door, like, what? It's like, hi, I'm your neighbor. It's like, it's such a foreign concept, but it is so important because community, and you know where this is really important. The other night, the neighbor's house was nearly broken into, and there's videos of the robbers trying to break into the house, and the police came around. And then everyone started introducing themselves to each other the next day. because it feels safer when we all know each other if there's danger, right?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I mean, I had the idea of talking to all my neighbors and ask them if they want to participate into a community garden. We have a big plot of land, which I think the city will try to turn it into a park, but there are enough parks around, and we don't need more than an acre or half an acre. But
Yeah.
I got discouraged because I look around and they all have boats and they all have dogs and they all have other activities, and I was afraid that I will end up taking care of the garden myself, and I also have limited time. I have my own garden, so I was trying to engage the community by asking them to participate because I'm already busy with my own vegetables.
Well, I would love to be part of a community garden. So pity you're not here in Australia. But yes, we all are craving community and connection.
Yes. Sharon,
Right?
how do you work with quantum field?
Okay, so the way I see it is the field, the all-knowing field. The field also has aspects that are benevolent and malevolent. And so we need to ensure that the field that we're working with is plugged into source. As I go through a process of ensuring that everything is source connected and source directed. And then from that, I start inviting the spirits in to my sessions.
And this is custom for each client, or this is a normal process you do?
Custom for each client. Because every client has a different spirit team. Every client has different spirits coming in to help them with whatever issue. And so the spirits are doing the work. I am responsible for setting up an etheric temple clean enough for the most benevolent spirits to come down and support us. That's my responsibility. I'm the temple keeper and the vessel. However, it's the spirits doing the work, not me.
And is the quantum field changing in any way now that on June 3rd we had 6 planets aligned, and tonight on June 6th, even if this interview will be posted in July, and we have new moon, is the quantum field changing in any way? Its vibration, its plasticity, or not?
The quantum field is always changing. And I actually feel this. I feel that every day we're actually being gifted more and more light coding from source and from the sun and from Mother Earth. The issue we have as humans is that we're not allowing it in because we're not decluttering our energy fields of all the stuff that we're carrying from the past, and we seem stuck in things that are now outdated. The spirit world actually continues to evolve and grow just like we do in consciousness. So spiritual information changes roughly every 2 to 3 years. We have to update it because the spirits are also evolving. And so when we stay stuck in things from a long time ago that are no longer relevant, we're actually not allowing the new light codes to come in. This is the biggest issue. But the field is abundant with healing, with love, with everything that we need to feel whole within us.
And other light workers mentioned that during this time, our DNA is changing. Also, the manifestation is much faster. How do you see it? It's similar for you?
Our DNA started really changing a lot, I noticed, in 2012. That's when I first started seeing in clients that sometimes it wasn't just the 2 strands of DNA. There might be a 3rd strand that was coming out or a 4th strand. I was like, what is going on? And so I really noticed the acceleration back then. In terms of things being quicker and manifestation speeding up, what is speeding up is the law of cause and effect, right? And so there's negatives and positives to this, right? You're in right alignment, you can call something in very quickly. You lie to someone, you cheat someone, It's not going to take 20 years to bounce back now. If you're on the path of light, it's going to take 5 minutes to bounce back to you. And so it actually means we need to be more accountable and more responsible in our lives right now.
So instant karma works much faster.
I have noticed it working within minutes now, and it just shows you how steady we have to be with our energy.
Yes, and I tested it like a few days ago with something personal, and I was amazed how fast it worked, like 24 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yes, 24 hours, and it wasn't something big, but big enough for me to pay attention and say thank you to the universe that it did manifest it the way I wanted. So now I have to put more effort into proving myself that I want that particular thing for a reason, which is to not only elevate my soul and my energy, but when I will become proficient in that particular skill, I will enchant others as well.
Amazing, amazing. And there's so many blessings for that. The other thing that's coming in is the field is always evolving, and the field needs us to evolve with it. So have you noticed that whatever humanity needs in that time, the field starts downloading what is most needed for humanity to lots of different light workers around the planet, saying, this is what we need. So for example, some previous patterns have been, we need more of the divine feminine. And lots of people start getting the divine feminine message. Or we need to be working with the rose plant spirit. And then all these sisterhoods of the rose have opened up. So the field is actually telling us, hey, humanity, this is what you'll need for the next level of your evolution so that I can evolve too. And so the field is constantly interacting with us. Now more people are aware of ancestral healing because we can't go to the next level of our evolution unless we all take responsibility for our own lineages.
Yes, and again, I heard others saying that we or those who are already awakened and aware of what's going on will move forward regardless of those who don't understand where they are spiritually, energetically, and they will be kind of left behind or moved on a parallel timeline.
Absolutely. So there's a parallel timeline theory of, the new Earth versus the Earth that we're currently seeing now, that there's so much chaos and darkness and war. And let's see, right? So all we can do is, what I tend to do is, instead of focusing on all the theories, is like, what is happening in my heart? How connected is my heart field to the magnetic field of Mother Earth? Because that's imperative. We need to be connected to the magnetic field of Mother Earth in order to be part of this evolutionary process, because she needs us to evolve with her, right? And then her magnetic field is basically the field, which is also illuminated by the sun and everything else. And within that, we are acupuncture points of light sent within the earth to where it needs most healing.
And I'm glad that you mentioned the fact that the Earth is affected by the sun. Everything is affected by the sun's flares and CMEs and everything else, sun's activity in general. And we know that some scientists still deny this fact. So how do you see this interaction moving forward? How much is going to affect us knowing that the geomagnetic field of Earth is going weaker in the coming years?
I just have a deep trust within me, right? That these planetary bodies know what they're doing, and that we don't have to worry about climate change, that these things happen, that some of these things are probably a program, and that we don't have to buy into this, right? We need to all focus our energy on building a planet that we want our descendants to be living in, right? That we want our descendants to inherit as a gift, not as a curse. And so part of that, I feel like once, what the greater field is waiting for is for humans to be heart connected.
Yes. And I think you just proved the fact that political leaders don't need scientists as advisors, but the right spiritual awakened person or shaman or indigenous leader to tell them exactly what's going on, because the scientists would just look at computer models, which are never right, or maybe 90% right, wrong and 10% right. And even in the movies, we saw that they keep running these models, and they tell us, don't worry, everything is fine, and 2 days later the sky is falling. So yes, this is my advice to any political leader who's listening: remove your scientist and hire a light worker.
Absolutely. And for all of us, it's also to trust in that nothing lasts forever.
Yes.
Everything is always transitioning. And so let's say the worst case scenario happens. Let's say the earth and the sun disappear. Nothing lasts forever. Thank you so much. We transition, our souls transition to another evolutionary experience somewhere else.
Yes, and there is no tragedy if we understand that we are immortals.
I fully understand that we are immortals and that our soul, our immortal spirit will continue moving on to wherever it needs to. And so once you really anchor that in, and through spiritual practice, one of the most important things is actually removing fear of death.
Yes.
Right? And learning how to die. That's one thing the Taoist taught me, which is the most important teaching, which shamanism teaches as well, preparing for death. Once you do a lot of that training and you realize you're immortal and that you live on, all of this stuff that everyone's so worried about doesn't actually matter. What matters is, how can we turn this place into the biggest place of beauty and become a heart-connected field within this planet?
Yes, and we can all pick up a ticket number, like you go into a government service building and you wait in line, you pick up your ticket, and you wait to see where your call takes you, what planet, to back to source or whatever. That would be fun.
It will be fun because there's so many possibilities for all the souls. There's infinite possibilities of soul journeys that different souls will choose to do or whatever. And when you start seeing it that way, when you start appreciating that everyone has a unique soul blueprint and infinite possibilities, you start looking at humanity differently, because appreciating someone's soul and appreciating your soul gets rid of comparison and competition.
Yes, but I think it will be nice to meet our sisters and brothers from other planets or universes while in this avatar, because I will be interested to see how the interaction will go. What type of personalities they are, how we can communicate telepathically. I will really enjoy. I think I will enjoy this type of interaction before I will go and meet them being just a soul.
Absolutely. We all love going to a new country and engaging with the culture. We all love it. So it's kind of like the same thing. We're engaging with a galactic culture. And of course, we all want to do it at a physical level and as an avatar. I guess it's just being aware that, like us, galactic races have benevolent and malevolent beings.
Yes, indeed. Sharon, at the beginning of our discussion, I mentioned that you are so well versed in various traditions. If you have to choose one, which one is your favorite?
There's no favorite, because it's the thing that has brought me the most peace and healing is connecting to my own lineage. And that's what I encourage everyone to do. Connect to your own lineage and then show up to other traditions differently.
And how hard was to heal your lineage and your ancestral line?
It's not, no one has a fully healed, because there's some ancestors that don't want to heal, and you have to respect that. And there's some ancestors that are Christian and want to stay stuck in certain dimensions, and we have to respect that. And so the important thing is to heal the ancestral miasms and patterns that we carry, right? And how do you know you're carrying it? And how do you, to me, most of it's ancestral. So if you're a jealous person, if you're an angry person, if you're a whatever person, there's your key. That's what you need to heal. As soon as you heal that, it's like a domino effect going all the way back to the lineage, to the original ancestor, so that the pattern is healed at the root cause. And the dominoes also go all the way back, all the way forward to all the descendants. It's easier looking at it as at a physical issue. So I'll give you an example. In my family, a lot of people have liver and gallbladder issues, and it's been an ancestral pattern. It even showed up in DNA tests. And so when I got a gallbladder issue, I thought, all right, this is my opportunity to heal it naturally as a gift to my lineage. And so I did. I healed it naturally as a gift to my lineage so that no one that comes after me has to carry that issue anymore.
Nice.
Right? So by
Yeah.
healing minds, by all of us healing the lineages, and remember, we're in a planet that doesn't want the lineages to heal. Because what happens is, a lineage starts healing, not the planet wants all of us to heal. I mean, the shadow beings ruling the planet. A lineage starts to heal, and what do? War, famine, destruction, drama, chaos, and so everything collapses, and then it has to start again. And it feels like there's not a single generation that can get a breather, right? When have we had a generation that can just be like, there's no war anywhere in the world, we can all focus on peace, right? All humans are being looked after, there's no famine, there's no poverty. So we haven't ever had a time where a generation can actually repair.
Yes.
And so we have to do it. Amongst all this crazy, we have to do it ourselves.
Yeah. And in fact, I heard that what's going on right now in between Israel and Palestine in Gaza is the fact a family feud, which like a family internal battle, which goes back thousands of years, and there is no one else from outside that can go in between and resolve the conflict. They have to deal with that among themselves and find peace with themselves. But looks like neither side is willing to make the first step, and that war will continue, that conflict will continue unless something else is going to happen, or maybe the divine will intervene in a particular way.
Absolutely. And that war has really affected all of us because it's the first time that they're actually showing everything on social media. And so when you see it, you can't ignore it's happening, right? Like the previous wars, like in Africa and things, we heard about them, but they didn't show us.
Yeah.
But this war is being shown. It's like, and people are feeling it, and everyone's so compassionate, and everyone's doing the best they can with prayers and awareness. But like you said, right, it's causing a lot of trauma to those poor people. By the time this war ends, if it ever ends, because it's been going for thousands of years, how long is it going to take for these lineages to heal? A long time.
Yes, and as you said, the fact that there are two different sides of the coin, and some parts of the world are on, let's say, Israel's side, the other side is on Palestine's side, and it's polarizing us in our daily life, and it's pulling us in two different directions, keeping us mentally busy. And not allowing us to focus internally on ourselves.
And it should be everyone. These are humans. These are suffering humans. So there's no side.
Yeah.
Right.
Indeed. Yeah. It's hard to draw a conclusion. Again, it will be amazing if they somehow find some peace within their hearts and some kindness to end the conflict and end human life losses, and especially children. And time will tell.
And if you look at it, what is war? It's a sacrifice to the shadow beings that rule the planet. It's a blood sacrifice.
Yes, indeed.
Right? And we've been allowing these blood sacrifices forever. So it's also going to take a huge shift within humanity in terms of where are we at war with ourselves? Where are we at war with our neighbors? Right?
Yeah.
All of us stopping where we're at war with ourselves and other people so that the frequency can also change. Because we don't change it by what's been interesting, I'm sure you probably noticed this, is when the war broke out, instead of the focus going on prayers towards the war area, light workers started picking on each other, going, "You're not doing enough. I'm posting more about the war than you are, so you must be a bad light worker." And so these mini wars broke out between light workers on social media. And as I was like, you're all missing the point. You shouldn't care what your neighbor is doing. You should just care about yourself and do what's right for you and not criticize someone else because they're not doing as much as you. Because now you are warring with a light worker, replicating what is happening in the conflict zone.
Yes, and by judging, you are diminishing your power, your energy as a light worker, and you fall into the trap of the dark side. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so I really hope that all these light workers, by all means, do what you need to for the conflict area, but stop picking on other light workers.
Yes. Sharon, I want to switch to one of your programs, Plant Kingdom Communication. I mean, it is fascinating to learn how to interact with a realm which most of us think or consider inferior, but that's not true. Sometimes they are much more intelligent and wise than us. How do you deal with this?
Can I just say how much I love the Plant Kingdom? It is, I won't say it's one of my favorites because then the other kingdoms will get annoyed. But it is, it's one of my favorite kingdoms. And what I've noticed when we connect to the Plant Kingdom, it changes people's lives in the most profound ways. Because I'll give you an example about myself. You know, you're walking around for 30 years, sometimes 40 years or even older, and you see the tree, but it's like a 2D tree. And then once you start connecting to the Plant Kingdom and you go for a walk, you look at the same tree, and now it's a 3D tree. There's so much energy moving through it, and there's like a magnetic pull between you and the plants, so that going for a walk is never the same again. Going for a walk is trees waving at you, plants whispering. It's a whole interactive process where you feel so connected to nature, so connected to Mother Earth, and so in love with this planet. And so this is why it changes people's lives, because you realize, wow, it's not just humans. I'm starting to have access to the other 99%, which is the spirit world. We only have access to the 1%. But this is where it becomes really beautiful, and this was definitely my experience. You know, we're all hurt by humans. We all go through phases where you like think, I don't belong here, humans don't like me, I don't like humans, so I'm going to go and escape in the spirit world. And by becoming friends with the plants and the animals and everything else, they smartly redirect you back to your heart so that you then fall in love again with the human kingdom. And so this is what happens when people work in the right way with spirit. They fall in love with humanity again, and that's what happened to me.
Nice. And in fact, I have two mugwort plants in my garden, which they came last year. I don't know how. Yes. And I didn't have the chance to talk to them much when the season started, but they are thriving, and I will, I think, uproot one of them to take it to another friend who really appreciates plants, and she knows how to talk to them. She's a herbalist, and she doesn't have one, and I got, in fact, three. And I will take one to her, and she wants to make tinctures from the leaves, and I was told by another ceremonialist that I should talk to the mugwort much more often. So yes. I have to do that.
So I'll give you a little tip that makes it super easy, and this goes a long way. When you're out in the garden with your plants, don't even think, oh, I have to communicate, I have to do this. It gets too heavy. Just praise them. For example, ladies, you are looking good today. Wow. Right?
Yes.
And then the more you, because plants are like us, we love praise, and we love being noticed. Once you start praising them, one day when you least expect it, you'll walk out and they'll be like, why aren't you saying anything? I used to have a tobacco plant. And if I didn't go out every morning and say, looking gorgeous, you are so handsome, Mr. Tobacco, so handsome, I would be at home and a couple hours later, I would actually hear the telepathic communication coming from the garden going, how come you haven't come out today? Come out and say hello to me, right? And so it literally starts with noticing and praise.
Thank you. I will do that.
Yes.
I will do that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's playful, right? It's playful, it's flirty, it's fun. And so there's no like, I have to do it right. It's just fun.
Yes, and I won't care if my neighbors will hear me and say I'm crazy.
Our neighbors hear us. Our neighbors hear us, and it's okay, even when we're watering them, because what happens is once you start this communication, you'll hear from outside, water, food. You'll hear it, and so then you have to come out and right. Plants now tell me when they need water. And sometimes, we're busy, we ignore it. I've got a beautiful bonsai. And this morning it said to me, water. And I was like, I've got a call, like, later. And as I was coming into the call, my partner said to me, that bonsai is asking for water and you're ignoring it. So now he didn't do this. All I taught him is what I taught you. That's all he's learned. And now it's completely opened up for him.
Wow. Thank you. Sharon, what type of sacred plant ceremonies do you do?
I only work with subtle plants now. So I work with blue lotus, cacao, kava, rose, tobacco, any subtle plant. In my past, I used to work with master plants. Went to Central and South America, did a lot of master plant work there for many years. But eventually the plant said, this is not what people need. People actually need to connect to the subtle so they can develop their subtle energy body. So I'll kind of give you an example. When you drink ayahuasca, it's like you open the door immediately and the spirit world comes to you, right? And so it's easy. Everything's there, right? When you drink a subtle plant like blue lotus, you have to meet blue lotus halfway. So your subtle bodies have to get a workout in order to fully open and receive. Once you've done this workout many times, it's very easy. And the experiences with subtle plants can be just as magical as with master plants, because really all plants are masters. So my focus is on training people on developing their subtle bodies so they can interact with a normal plant and have profound experiences.
Yes, because I attended the ayahuasca ceremony first, and then San Pedro one several months later, and no one explained to me what to expect, and nothing happened to me. I mean, knowing what ayahuasca can do, and that experience, which was profound and kind of brutal, San Pedro was very subtle. And someone asked me, or the shaman asked me, do you want to drink more? And I said no, because again, I didn't know what to expect. And you said right now, meet halfway. And I think maybe San Pedro is that type of plant.
Yes, because some plants, some master plants work immediately when there is a spiritual connection. For example, one of your ancestors or you had a past life with that plant. If this is your first life ever meeting a plant, there's got to be some work involved to establish the relationship. The other thing that people are aware of is that normally, ayahuasca is very feminine, San Pedro is very masculine.
Yes.
And so for some people, it's easier to connect to the feminine than the masculine and vice versa. But I actually feel that everyone going into ceremony, when I was working in this realm, we would have a whole day of what to expect and how to navigate the spirit world. because I felt that sending people into those spaces with that, all of that training was like a lamb to the slaughter.
Yes, indeed. And yeah, I mean, San Pedro is also called the grandfather. It has
Yes.
that wiseness to attach to it, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so when I was working with the master plants, they said to me, look, there's people coming into these sessions that have never interacted with a plant before. So it's very hard for us to work on them because they're not connected to the plant kingdom. Why don't you connect them first, right? Because nature recognizes nature. Don't bring them to the queen if they haven't right, if they haven't met the other people in the castle. And so it's really important before we go to any kind of master plan. Even if you look at the traditions in South America, they spend a lot of time with other plants in dietas before drinking the master plants, right? So they actually start carrying all these the jungle in their body. So there's a familiar vibration when you then drink the master plant. So ideally, if you're a Westerner and you're thinking of doing master plants, please work with a subtle plant first. Please learn how to grow your subtle bodies, and your experience will be much more different.
Yes, and I know someone in Peru who does Nayorao dietas prior to, or they're offering this type of dietas before going into something stronger like ayahuasca.
And the thing is, like, I didn't know, I've done a Nayorao dieta twice. And for me, that was stronger than ayahuasca. Just when I was sitting with the brew, I felt that the whole room was shaking.
Wow.
Right? It is such a powerful, powerful tree. So sometimes it's because it's an energy body training. So one of my teachers, when I first got onto this path, said, Sharon, as a spirit worker, you need to learn how to operate the equipment, the machinery in which you're interacting with, which is the physical body and the energy bodies. And so you need to do Qigong, because you need to know what it feels like to have meridians running in your body, and what it feels like to have energy, like energy moving around your body. And so I feel like this is non-negotiable on this path, so that you can really feel the different frequencies of plants and how they move in your body. And the other day, I went to see an elder naturopath who was amazing, and she had a frequency machine. And so she would put a plant, an essential oil on the machine, and then you would connect it to you. And every essential oil had a different frequency wave pattern that I could feel in my body. And even though I've been working with plants for 20 years, feeling that dropped it at a new level, because you're like, wow, learning how to read these frequencies without the machine is where we should be going.
Yes, and there are indigenous people, in my opinion, who know how to do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. The more time you spend with plants, the more you can read the different energetic structures. And then it's like, when you meet people and you're like, oh yeah, that frequency feels like I want more of that, or that frequency I'm going to stay away from, you automatically know what your energy field needs. When you're very good at assessing frequencies and you see 10 bottles of essential oils, you already know which one you need without having to muscle test, without having to dowse, because you can feel which one's calling you at a frequency match.
Indeed. And staying on this line of discussion about energies and indigenous, this is a question I ask almost every single guest that comes from Australia. Have you had the chance to meet with the Aboriginals? Have you been allowed in and get their feel and energy?
I went with some people, and we spent 2 weeks in the Australian desert, and we were literally there in service to the tribe. So we were cooking for the tribe every night. We were helping. We were building things. We were supporting. And unfortunately, some of the people, we were also supposed to be receiving wisdom. But because some of the people that came started demanding wisdom, and they didn't want to be of service, it caused a lot of issues, right? And the other issue was a lot of the people that came were working with the South American traditions. And the Aboriginal tribe and the elders specifically said to us, don't bring anything into the tribe. Don't bring hape, don't bring mapacho, don't bring crystals. You need to keep it as pure as possible. But a lot of people didn't listen. And they brought in hape and they started doing hape at night and those kind of things. And so unfortunately, everything fell apart. And please, guys, if anyone wants to go to any Indigenous culture, we cannot have an agenda. We have to just show up and be in service. And the gift that we receive is being in service.
Yes, it gives me goosebumps, honestly. And yes, we have to go in there being humble, and just be present and have no expectations, pretty much.
Absolutely. And as you know, every Indigenous teacher, even the Taoists, part of the journey is breaking your ego. So part of the journey is that they give you tests or they challenge you to see how you're going to react. I've already been through this journey with the Taoists. So when an elder, for example, says to you, build a fire here, and you build a fire, and then they come 2 hours later and they say, no, move it over there, which is only like 20 centimeters away. You're like, don't
Okay.
complain. Don't complain. You just do it. You just keep doing it because they want you to feel the trigger, feel the anger, not react, and just allow yourself to be humble, allow your ego to start breaking. It's an ego breaking process, right? And so Westerners, we need to know that anytime that we go culture, just shut up and do what you're told.
Yes, and something else we have to understand, that we are going through this test, and it seems that we might not receive anything, but the gift can come to us after we left, after we are back into civilization, because everything is quantum field. They can send us their message, their energy, their teaching without us being there present.
I received so many gifts because I didn't complain, because I didn't demand my money back, right? Because I actually got what was going on. And so thank you for sharing. In this quantum field, when people work with spirit, when people work with shamanic practitioners, the healing continues. I call it slow burning magic. It just continues and continues long after the session ends, long after the ceremony ends. If you just remain open and grateful to the transformation, no matter how hard it gets.
Yes. And I missed this year in March the opportunity to meet the Koji tribe in northern Colombia. And again, it was a small group, and the Kojis offered to welcome this group and share wisdom and go through ceremonies with the participants. And I was told that the experience was amazing, and people were indeed walking in being humble.
Amazing. We're changing as a collective. The more that we generously receive wisdom from other tribes, the more that we as a collective start changing our Western mindset to from one of taking to one of sharing.
Indeed. Sharon, what other programs would you be able to share with the viewers that you think will help them move forward and evolve on their spiritual path?
My passion, my personal passion that I love sharing with participants is training people how to hold space. Because we desperately need good sacred space holders on the planet. And schools don't teach that. You know, I've trained in so many therapies. No therapy taught me how to hold space. Even shamanic trainings don't teach you how to hold space. But this is what I do. I teach people how to hold space based on my experience with the Taoist masters, based on my experience with so many shamanic practitioners, so that when you go to a sacred space, your soul actually receives true healing. Your soul is actually in a soul hospital where it's being taken care of, not being harvested, not being broken. It's actually receiving healing.
And do you teach people one-on-one, or you have groups or online course?
There's two options. There's a group online course that goes on for 3 months, or there's a 7-day in-person training in Australia.
Interesting. And
Yeah.
do you travel the world? Do you organize retreats in various sacred places, or you just stay put in Australia?
I go wherever anyone invites me. So this year I've been invited to Glastonbury to run a retreat. So next month I'm going to Europe and I'll be doing some work in Poland and the UK. So it's like wherever spirit wants me to go, it'll kind of just happen. But most of it is in Australia because I do live here. But I
Nice.
have clients who do the online training from all over the world. I've had clients from all the way from Canada to Sweden to Costa Rica, and they're all changing the way that they hold space. And it's just really amazing and rewarding to see this.
Sharon, thank you very much for the lovely discussion. We are approaching the end of the interview. Any final thoughts?
I want to thank you. I want to thank you for, I know how difficult it is to have the extra time to be of service to the collective and to share of yourself and interview so many people and still do all the other things that you do. And so thank you. Thank you for creating this, inviting other spirit workers in to discuss, and for sharing it with others. So, and thank you to your viewers for listening.
Thank you very much. It's part of my service. I like to think that it's part of how I service humanity. And thank you very much once again. And to my viewers, thank you for watching. Like it, leave a comment, visit spiritualinspired.ca. And until next time, love and gratitude.